Welcome, dear listener. The night is soft now. The world outside can wait. You've made it here, to a quiet place. A space where stories flow like moonlight through half-closed windows. And tonight, I'll be your guide. So get comfortable. Let the weight of your day fall away like old leaves on still water. Breathe in slowly and let your shoulders relax. You're safe here. This is your time. And now, let's tuck into the first chapter of a strange, haunting journey. A story about desperation and dreams. About debt, danger, and the fragile spark of humanity when the world goes dark. This is a tale not of monsters or ghosts, but of people. Real, flawed, desperate people, and the choices they make when pushed to the very edge. This is the story of Squid Game, and it begins not with blood, nor with violence, but with a man, tired, lost, and drifting in the noisy tide of life. The man in the rain, his name is Seong Gi-hun, a man in his 40s, with kind eyes worn thin by time. The world has not been kind to him, but even now, he still smiles, like a boy who believes in miracles. We find him beneath the grey skies of Seoul, where the city pulses with noise and neon, and the rain never quite stops falling. He is broke, not just in money, but in spirit. He lives with his elderly mother, in a cramped home that smells of memory and medicine. He has a daughter, his pride, his hope, but she is drifting away, caught in the pull of another life. And Gi-hun, he is barely staying afloat. He gambles, because the real world has offered him no better odds. We see him in a crowded betting hall, his breath quick with borrowed hope. A horse race flickers across the screen. His eyes are locked on it. He clutches a betting ticket like it's his last lifeline. And somehow, he wins. For a brief, glimmering moment, luck is on his side. He laughs, he cheers, he dances with strangers. But fate has sharp teeth, and even joy comes at a price. Before long, the money is gone. Pickpocketed, chased, or simply wasted, it slips through his fingers like sand. As night falls, Gi-hun finds himself at a claw machine in a dingy arcade. He wants to win a gift for his daughter, a birthday present to remind her of his love, however imperfect. With the stubborn focus of a desperate man, he guides the metal claw down, 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 and wins a prize. A small, odd thing wrapped in pink. Not quite what he hoped, but it's something. A gesture. Later, he hands it to her, clumsily, sheepishly, and when she opens it, it's a toy gun lighter. Not exactly the dream gift from a father, but she smiles anyway. She's used to this. She knows who her father is, and maybe still she loves him for trying. The mysterious invitation. Later that night, in the dim stillness of a subway platform, Gi-hun sits slumped on a bench, empty-handed, lost in thought. A man approaches, a him, well-dressed, calm. With a quiet smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, he asks Gi-hun if he wants to play a game. It's a strange request, but the man offers money, and Gi-hun, ever broke, ever hoping, agrees. They sit on the floor of the station and play a children's game, dakji, slapping paper tiles to flip the other. Each loss earns Gi-hun a stinging slap to the face, and each win earns him cash. It's odd, humiliating, strangely thrilling. After many rounds, the man gives him a card, a simple business card, brown, clean, with a strange symbol, circle, triangle, square, and a phone number. If you want to play more games, the man says, call this number. And then he vanishes into the night. Gi-hun stares at the card, heart pounding. A door has opened, to what he doesn't yet know, but his life has offered him no miracles. So this strange, surreal invitation feels like the first flicker of something different. Later, in his quiet apartment, Gi-hun dials the number. A calm voice answers. He gives his name, and just like that, the game begins. A van, and the darkie's told to meet someone at a specific location. When he arrives, a van waits in the shadows. Inside, masked figures greet him. One of them holds a canister of gas. Sleep comes quickly, cold and deep, and when he wakes up, he's no longer in the world he knew. The place of games, Gi-hun opens his eyes to a vast, surreal room, bright, sterile, strange. He is one of hundreds, men and women dressed in green tracksuits marked with numbers. Cameras watch from high corners. The staff, all in red jumpsuits and masked faces, move in silence. No one knows where they are, no one knows why, but the games are about to begin. In a childlike field, painted to look like a storybook. Blue, skies, giant trees, and cartoon suns. The first game is announced. Red light, green light. It seems innocent, just a game children play in schoolyards. When the giant doll says green light, players move forward. When she says red light, they must freeze. But when the first player moves, after the red light, they don't just lose. They fall. Blood, silence, shock, and then chaos. People run. Screams fill the painted field. But there is nowhere to hide. It is no longer a game. It is survival. And Gi-hun, frozen in fear, realizes the truth. To move means death. To stop is to live. With trembling limbs and wide eyes, he follows the rules. One step at a time, breath held, heart racing. Around him, people fall, but he presses forward. One breath, one motion, one miracle at a time. And at the end, he makes it. Blood on the grass, silence in the air. The game is over, and only 201 players remain. The camera rises, the sun sets behind painted clouds, and Gi-hun stands, numb and shaking, in a place that looks like a dream, but feels like a nightmare. He has survived, but the games have only just begun. Squid Game Episode 1, Red Light, Green Light, Part 2. After the game has ended. The silence after is not peace, but shock. Bodies lie scattered across the painted field like broken toys, frozen in motion, red blooming beneath them. The bright blue sky above, so artificial and cheery, now feels cruel in contrast. The remaining players, those who made it across the finish line, stand still, shaking, breathless, not cheering, not celebrating, just surviving. Gi-hun's heart pounds in his chest so loud he can hear it. He doesn't know how he did it, how his legs carried him forward, how his body obeyed when his mind screamed. He looks around at the others. Their faces say the same thing. What just happened to us? The masked staff move through the field, quiet and efficient. The fallen are carried away. No names are spoken. No explanations are given. It's all so orderly, so cold. They're led back to the dormitory, the huge boxy room stacked with metal bunks, where numbers hang above every bed. Everything feels sterile, like a factory. No windows, just walls, painted in soft pastels that somehow make it worse. And there, finally, the voices rise. Questions, anger, demands. What is this place? Why didn't you tell us it was real? You tricked us. Some try to leave, others scream, but the masked guards stand still, unmoving. They do not respond. They do not explain. Then, a rule is recited, gently, almost soothingly. There are 3 clauses. Players are not allowed to stop playing. A player who refuses to play will be eliminated. If the majority agree to stop, the games will end. That last rule, it's the thread of hope they cling to. A vote is held, and one by one, the players step forward, choosing between stay or leave. It is almost perfectly even. Tense, waited, until an old man, player 001, smiles kindly and casts the final vote. He chooses to leave. And just like that, the game ends. For now. Back to reality, Gi-hun wakes up. On the side of the road. In the rain. His tracksuit is still damp with sweat. His mind echoing with what he saw. It wasn't a dream. He knows that now. He stumbles home. Hollow and haunted. His mother scolds him softly. She thought he'd been gambling again. In truth, he has no way to explain what happened. He checks on his daughter. Hears she may move to the United States with her mother and stepfather. Gi-hun feels the world slipping away from him again. He tries to go to the police, but his story sounds impossible. A secret game with hundreds of players? People dying in children's games? The officer nods politely and does nothing. Desperate, Gi-hun calls the number again, but it's been disconnected. The dream, no, the nightmare, has vanished like smoke, and the world, cruel as ever, takes no notice. Other players, other lives elsewhere. We see glimpses of others who played. Sang-woo, Gi-hun's childhood friend, once a brilliant man, now drowning in quiet disgrace. He sits alone in his bathtub, suit still on, staring into the nothing. Ali, the kind, strong migrant worker, tries to collect unpaid wages from a cruel employer. He has a wife, a baby, and nothing to give them. Se-byuk, the quiet North Korean defector, follows a broker who has cheated her. She wants her mother back. She wants to keep her brother safe. And the old man, player 01, smiling, even now. He has a secret, though we don't yet know what. All of them, broken, burdened, trapped by circumstances bigger than themselves. And one by one, they all receive a second card, another invitation. The choice, each of them, must decide the world outside the game is not safer. It's colder, harsher, more indifferent. There, they owe, they beg, they bleed. So they make their choice. To return. Not for the thrill, not even for the money really, but because they have nowhere else to go. Back into the shadows, Gi-hun climbs into the van once more. No resistance this time, no questions, just a soft sigh as sleep takes him again. Gas fills the air, and the door closes. Outside, life goes on. Inside, the game waits. End of episode 1. Red light, green light. The game has begun, and though many chose to leave, they now return, not as players of a game, but as people walking toward the only path left open to them. What lies ahead is darker, stranger, but we'll walk through it together, step by quiet step. Squid Game. Episode 2. Hell. A vote to leave. The episode begins in silence. The game has ended for now. The players, dazed and broken, are returned to the outside world. They awake in strange places, dropped like forgotten parcels along the edges of their former lives. Rain falls gently. The city glows cold beneath a grey sky. And the memories, those red-streaked fields, the sound of a mechanical voice calling green light, cling to their skin like damp clothes. They are free, but freedom, it turns out, isn't quite what it used to be. Gi-hun's return. Gi-hun stumbles home again. This time, he's not greeted with scolding, but with silence. His mother is tired. His home is cold. He hasn't changed. He's still the same man who can't afford to care for his daughter, still drowning in debts, in shame, in things unsaid. He eats quietly, listens to his mother's cough, watches her work, and feels the familiar weight return, the aching guilt, the helplessness. It's a different kind of prison, this world. Sang-woo's fallen a sleek, modern office across the city. Sang-woo hides behind his glasses. He's back in the world too. But his fall is quieter, sharper. Once a genius, a golden boy, a success story. Now, he's wanted for fraud, for stealing, for ruining everything. His mother still believes in him, still brags about him at the fish stall she runs. But Sang-woo, he can't look her in the eyes. When the police come asking, he hides, sinks deeper. His shame is quieter than Gi-hun's, but it cuts deeper, like glass beneath the skin. Ali's desperation. Ali returns to the factory where he was never paid. He bows to his employer, pleads, but the man laughs in his face, throws crumpled bills at his feet, tells him to leave, and then Ali snaps, just for a moment. He grabs the man's hand and presses it against a piece of machinery. The man screams. Ali takes the money and runs. It's not justice. It's not victory. It's survival. And survival, in this world, sometimes means becoming someone you weren't meant to be. Saebyok's secrets. Saebyok moves through the city like a ghost. She follows a man who once promised to help smuggle her family out of the north. He lied, took her money, disappeared. But she finds him, cornered, desperate. She presses a knife to his throat. He pleads. She doesn't kill him, but she makes sure he remembers her name, and then she walks away, alone. Always, except for her little brother, hidden in a children's shelter, the only part of her world she still wants to protect. Time is running. Out each player, Gi-hun, Sang-woo, Ali, Saebyok, and so many others tries to return to life. They try, but doors are closed. Debts grow. The world doesn't care what they've been through. It simply moves on. So when the card comes again, that same strange business card with its symbols and silence, they hesitate, but only for a moment. Then, one by one, they call the number, not because they want to die, but because they don't know how else to live. Return to the unknown. The van pulls up again. This time, they don't struggle. They simply climb inside. Lie back, close their eyes. The gas hisses softly, and sleep returns, like a quiet fog, a glimpse of the man behind the mask. While the players drift, a figure watches, a man in a black mask, adorned with a silver geometric face, like something carved from obsidian. He's in charge. His presence is calm, cold, absolute. We don't know his name, not yet, but he walks the halls of the game like a king in his palace, and as the players return, he prepares for what's next, the real hell. The title of this episode, Hell, is not about the games, not yet. It's about the world they left behind. The cold, indifferent city, the unpaid wages, the broken families, the suffocating shame. It's about the quiet cruelty of reality and how sometimes a place where the rules are deadly can feel more fair than a place where the rules don't matter at all. End of episode 2. Hell no games were played in this episode. No bullets fired, no dolls sang lullabies, but still, it hurt. In a quieter way, the players return, not as victims, but as volunteers, because the world outside has its own rules. And sometimes, losing a game feels safer than losing your soul. Squid Game, Episode 3, The Man with the Umbrella. The game room awakens. The players awake once more in the towering dormitory, all of them dressed alike, numbered, lying in bunks stacked high like drawers in a forgotten warehouse. And though the air is still, the atmosphere has changed. They came back by choice this time. Their eyes are sharper. Their fear is quieter now, simmering just beneath the skin. No one speaks of the game to come, but they all feel it. The unspoken truth that another challenge awaits. And this time, they may not be so lucky. New faces and quiet tensions. As the players settle in, we begin to see them more clearly. Sang-woo, always thinking, always calculating. He watches, counts, observes. Se-byuk, the pickpocket, moves through the room like mist. She's light on her feet. Her eyes miss nothing. Ali, soft-spoken and kind, stays close to Sang-woo. He sees him as a man who knows the way forward. And then there is Deok-soo, the gangster, a man ruled by anger, flanked by his crew, carving fear into the others with every glance. And with him is Minyo, a woman sharp as glass, loud, proud, unafraid to speak when others stay quiet. She says what others won't, that they're here to win, that kindness won't save them, and all around. The masked staff watch silently, pink-suited, unblinking, like dolls made of flesh. The prizes' tension rises, the voice returns, gentle and unfeeling. It announces the prize money. For every player who dies, 100 million won is added to the pot. The more that fall, the richer the survivor becomes. And there, above their beds, a great golden sphere begins to fill. It hangs in the air like a moon, glowing with greed. The players look up at it, and something inside them shifts. Now, death is not only tragedy, it's value. A meager meal the players are given breakfast, a single hard-boiled egg, a bottle of water, and for some, that's not enough. Deok-soo pushes to the front, takes extra, laughs as others go hungry. No one stops him. Not the staff, not the rules. It's the first true lesson. The game has started. Even before the next round begins, Gi-hun goes hungry. But Ali, sweet, generous Ali, quietly gives him his egg. Small moments of kindness still exist here, but they flicker like candlelight in the wind. Se-byuk's secret. That night, Se-byuk moves silently, climbs the scaffolding, slips behind the shadows. She finds a vent, peeks through, and what she sees is fire, heat, metal trays, the game staff preparing something, shapes, tools. She returns, tells only Sang-woo. He listens, thinks, waits. Because in a place like this, even a glimpse can change your fate. The second game. The next morning, the players file into a candy-colored chamber. A wall filled with 4 familiar shapes looms. Before them, a circle, a triangle, a star, and an umbrella. They are told to choose. No other clues, no hints, just pick. Ji-hun hesitates. Sang-woo knows. He's figured it out. The game, he thinks, involves those shapes. It has something to do with what Se-byuk saw, the metal trays, the heat. But he says nothing. Lets Gi-hun choose. The umbrella, the most difficult shape of all. And then the truth is revealed. The game is called Dalgona. Each player receives a thin golden disc of sugar candy. Their goal, to carefully cut the shape out of the brittle sugar without cracking it. One wrong move, one slip, and the guards will shoot. A sweet, deadly game panic spreads quickly. Fingers tremble, sweat drips. The silence is filled with the sound of needles tapping sugar. Some try to rush. The candy shatters. The gun fires. Others take their time, pray, cry. Gi-hun, holding his umbrella, struggles. The candy is delicate, the handle thin. Then, he remembers something, an old trick. He licks the back, lets the moisture soften the sugar. It works. Slowly, carefully. He sets the umbrella free. One after another, players succeed. Others do not. The air fills with the sound of gunshots and the smell of sugar and blood. A rule broken, one player panics. He grabs a guard, takes him hostage, breaks the rule. He removes the mask, and for the first time, we see the face of one of the pink-suited staff. A boy, young, afraid, human. The masked leader appears. Quiet, still. He approaches the boy and without hesitation shoots him, because here rules are rules and no face may be shown. Night falls. The survivors return to their dorm. Fewer now, quieter. The air feels heavier. That night, Gi-hun sits with Sang-woo, Ali, and Se-byuk. They share crumbs, stories, names. It's not friendship, not yet, but it's something. In a place built for death, they are slowly choosing to be human. End of episode 3, The Man with the Umbrella. In this episode, the games turn sweeter and deadlier. The players begin to learn. Luck and wit might save you once, but kindness is no guarantee of survival, and trust is a currency more fragile than candy. Squid Game. Episode 4. Stick to the team shadows in the dormitory. Lights dim once again, not because of sleep, but something else. As players return from the Dalgona challenge, fewer in number, the weight of their losses begins to settle. There's no music now, no voice from above, just the hum of fluorescent lights, and the quiet click of fear sharpening into survival. Se-byuk, Sang-woo, Gi-hun, and Ali form a loose circle. They huddle together, not quite friends, but no longer strangers. An alliance born not of trust, but of need. And need is what drives everything now. The first nightfall, without warning, the lights shut off. In the dark, chaos. Screams echo. Metal clatters. Players scramble in the black. Deok-soo and his crew strike first. They've sensed the rules. The silence of the staff, the absence of intervention. There are no rules here at night, no boundaries, no mercy. People die in the dark, bludgeoned, stabbed, their numbers erased before dawn. Jihan and the others press together, hiding beneath the beds, breath shallow, eyes wide. The flicker of neon lights strobe like a nightmare, and in the midst of it all, Minyo laughs, unbothered, thriving in the madness. Eventually, the lights return. Bodies lie broken on the floor, and the golden sphere above grows heavier with blood. Trust in the ashes. When silence returns, the surviving players begin to grasp a chilling truth. They are not just playing the games, they are the game. The guards will not save them. The staff will not intervene. And so, new rules must be made among themselves. Sang-woo suggests what they all feel. They must form a team, a group, watch each other's backs. Even Gi-hun, still idealistic, still clinging to softness, knows he must say yes. So they form a pact. Gi-hun, the heart Sang-woo, the brain Se-byok, the shadow Ali, the soul and Soon. They are joined by Ilna, the old man, smiling, fragile, but sharper than he seems. Gi-hun invites him without hesitation, because kindness is still alive in him. For now. The doctor and the dealing, the hidden corners of the game. Something else is happening. Quiet, sinister. One of the players, a doctor, is led away at night by masked guards. He is shown something unseen by others. Dead bodies, organs harvested. He helps them. In exchange, they whisper what the next game will be. It is a trade, life for secrets. But even secrets here come with a price. The next game, tug of war. The voice returns, calm, mechanical, announcing the next challenge, tug of war. The players step onto freight elevators, rising floor by floor. They're told to form groups of 10, only 10. And once again, we see the quiet desperation of choice. Teams form quickly, strong men, fighters, people with muscles and anger in their eyes. But Gi-hun's group, they are the outliers, too old, too small, too weak. Il-nam is frail, Se-byok is slim, Ali is kind, not brutal. Even Sang-woo begins to worry, but it is Il-nam, wise, quiet Il-nam, who tells them a story of playing tug of war as a child, of using strategy, not strength, and they listen. The platform. The teams are led to a towering room. 2 platforms, a rope stretched between them. No nets, no safety. Below, a void. The game begins. Gi-hun's team digs in, hands burning, arms trembling. The rope pulls, their bodies tilt. The other team is strong, loud, but they hold. Il-nam's advice guides them, feet angled, hips back, pull in rhythm, breathe together. Still, they begin to lose ground. Then Sang-woo shouts a new command. 3 steps forward. They do it. A gamble. A trick. The other team stumbles forward in surprise. And in that split second, Gi-hun's team pulls. Hard. The other side screams and falls. Down. Into the abyss. The aftermath. There's no applause. No congratulations, just silence, and the quiet breath of those still alive. Gi-hun looks around, at Il-nam, grinning faintly, at Ali, shaking but standing, at Sang-woo, his jaw set, and at Se-byok, who says nothing, but meets his eyes. They've won, but the cost is something that won't show up in the prize money. It lives in their bones, now, a weight that cannot be counted. End of episode 4. Stick to the team. This was the episode where survival became personal, where the danger of the game slipped into the shadows between the games, and where strength was no longer just about muscle, but about trust, instinct, and timing. The group is forming now, bound not by friendship, but by shared fear. And in a world where one misstep means death, that may be enough. Squid Game. Episode 5, A Fair World. Echoes of the fall, the tug-of-war platform is still suspended in memory. A hollow space where 10 souls once stood, and now only silence remains. Gi-hun's team returns to the dormitory. Their bodies are sore. Their hands are raw. But they are still here. The others look at them differently now, not with sympathy, but calculation. Every victory here is also a warning, a reminder. These players aren't just surviving, they're learning. A world without rules as the lights hum back to life. The fragile peace inside the dormitory begins to fracture. Tensions grow louder, food is scarcer, and the guards seem to be watching less, or perhaps simply choosing when to care. Another fight breaks out. This time, it isn't random, it's territorial, deliberate. The stronger players, Deok-su, and his gang begin taking control, not just of space, but of food, water, silence. Minyo, always the chameleon, slides in beside him, laughing too loudly, clinging too closely. She knows power when she sees it, and she will survive, no matter what it costs her dignity. Meanwhile, Gi-hun's group stays close, quiet, thoughtful. They've seen what happens when chaos is left unchecked. They've survived it once already. They know. The next night might be worse. Secrets in the shadows, elsewhere, far from the common room, something even darker unfolds. The doctor, the player secretly working with the guards, is led once again into the hidden depths of the facility. Fluorescent lights flicker above tables lined with cold metal, and what lies on them is not game pieces. He helps remove organs. He sutures wounds. He keeps the trade alive. His silence exchanged for secrets. Tonight, they tell him, the next game is one of glass. But information in this place is not given freely. It is a tool, a weapon, a trap, and trust is the most dangerous currency of all. Behind the mask, but someone is watching. Hwang Jun-ho, the police officer who snuck into the facility under the guise of a masked guard, is getting closer to the truth. He moves carefully now, hiding beneath the anonymity of red suits and dark hallways. He sees the trades, the surgeries, the desperation behind the structure. And worse, he finds proof that his brother, the one he came searching for, may have been a part of it all. He follows the trail like a ghost. One wrong step could end him. But the truth pulls him forward, quietly, like a tide. The doctors fall in the tunnels. Something goes wrong. The doctor demands more information than they are willing to give. He's become greedy, paranoid. He flees. A chase begins, fast, frantic. But you won't hear shouting, just footsteps, heavy breath, and the quiet panic of a man who's seen too much. When they finally catch him, it's not the other players who punish him, but the front man, tall, still, voice like cold wind. He reminds everyone of a rule, long buried beneath the chaos. This is a fair world, Everyone plays the same game. There are no advantages, and the doctor's body is left. As a warning, even secrets cannot protect you forever. A candle in the dark night falls again. But this time, the fear is different. After the punishment of the doctor, the players are quiet, huddled closer, some whispering prayers, others counting every breath like it could be their last. Gi-hun looks at Il-nam. The old man is smiling again, as though even this, death in the dark, is something he's seen before. Se-byok sharpens a piece of metal beneath her blanket. Ali checks on Sang-woo, and the group stays awake, one by one taking turns to keep watch. It is a ritual now, a way to survive the space between games. And though they don't speak of it, they all feel it. There is something crueler than the games themselves. It's the waiting. The illusion of fairness by morning. The illusion of order has returned. Guards arrive with food. The voice returns. The dormitory is cleaned. But something lingers now. Not just the smell of blood, but the understanding that there is no real safety. Not here. Not ever. And yet, they rise, eat, dress. Because the game isn't over. Not yet. End of episode 5, A Fair World. This was the episode where the mask began to slip, where the idea of fairness was tested and found hollow, where players learned that trust can be as deadly as betrayal. The world inside the game pretends to be balanced, equal, fair, but we've seen the truth now, haven't we? Power isn't in the rules, it's in the shadows between them. Squid Game, Episode 6, Gambu. The announcement, it begins gently. The voice calls out, "Prepare for the next game," and the players, fewer than ever now, shuffle forward. The atmosphere is different, not as frantic, not as panicked, just heavy, like the calm before a storm that no one truly understands. Choosing a partner, they are told to form pairs. For just a moment, there is relief, a chance to align with someone they trust. Gi-hun turns quickly to Il-nam, the old man, the one who has smiled in the darkest moments, the one who reminded him of gentler days. He offers him his hand, and Il-nam accepts. They are Gambu now, a word from childhood, meaning more than just partners. It means friends. It means shared marbles, shared fate. Elsewhere, Ali stands beside Sang-woo, a hesitant smile on his face and a quiet hope in his heart. Minyo is left alone, unchosen, and quietly led away. Se-byok pairs with a young woman named Ji-yong, someone we've barely met, but soon we will know her well. A town of ghosts, the players step into, a new arena, and for the first time, it's not an abstract space. It looks like something from memory, a quiet alley, brick walls, a peaceful courtyard that feels like a village, long forgotten. But it is hollow. There are no children playing, no elders sitting in the shade, just silence and marbles. They are given a single instruction. Play any marble game you like, but only one of you will leave, just one. Gi-hun and Il-nam, the lost alien. A quiet corner of the village, Gi-hun and Il-nam begin to play. They choose an old game from their childhood, simple, predictable, and yet something doesn't sit right. Il-nam is forgetful. He smiles and forgets the rules. He wanders off mid-game, staring into the houses. He asks Gi-hun if this place reminds him of home, and it does. For a while, Gihun plays along. He lies, gently, lets Ilnam win a few rounds, anything to delay the inevitable. But the clock is ticking, and eventually, he must win. Ilnam, confused and smiling, offers his final marble. Gihun hesitates, tears in his eyes, but Ilnam simply says, "We're Gambu, we share everything," and then he walks away. Only one set of footsteps echoes back, Sang-woo and Ali. The betrayal. Ali, ever loyal, is proud to stand beside Sang-woo. They play a fair game, laugh even. Ali wins. But Sang-woo doesn't panic. He reasons, he flatters, he lies. He tells Ali there must be a trick, that they'll both survive. If they can outsmart the system, Ali believes him. He gives Sang-woo his marbles, just for safekeeping, and Sang-woo, with calm hands and hollow eyes, swaps them for stones. Ali calls out excited, "I've done what you said," but the guards approach, and Sang-woo walks away. Ali's name is called, and his voice is the last thing we hear from him. Saebyok and Ji-young. The choice. The two women do not rush. They sit together, talk, share pieces of themselves. Saebyok speaks of her family, her little brother, a future outside these walls. Ji-young. She speaks of nothing because she has nothing. No family, no dreams, only quiet and the emptiness left by a world that never gave her a chance. And so she smiles, places the marble in Saebyok's hand and walks away. A sacrifice made not out of despair, but out of choice. The end of the game, as the final pairings dissolve, the arena empties. The guards walk through the alley like reapers in red. Bodies are collected. Only half the players return, and Gihun, his hands still trembling, his eyes wet with disbelief. He knows something has broken, not just in the game, but inside him. End of episode 6. Ganbu. This was not the loudest episode. There were no fights, no blood sprayed across walls, no screaming, just choices, quiet ones. And in many ways, that is the cruelest game of all. This was the moment where hearts were tested, where friendship was both a gift and a trap, and where every victory tasted like loss. Gambu. The word will never sound the same again. Squid Game, Episode 7, VIPS, The Masks Behind the Curtain. The room is dim, like a forgotten lounge in a long-lost palace. The guards are rushing now, but not for the players. The VIPs are coming. They arrive in gold-plated masks and polished arrogance, their voices dripping with boredom and mockery. Not participants in the game, but its audience. They settle into plush chairs, sipping drinks, making bets. To them, the players are no more than horses at a racetrack. Numbers, odds, entertainment, and somewhere among them, Jun-ho, the detective, watches from behind a mask of his own. A quiet observer in a den of predators. He listens, he waits, and the truth grows louder in his ears. Glass steps to nowhere. Back in the dormitory, the remaining players are called. They are led to a tall, narrow bridge suspended in an endless, echoing room. There are 2 rows of glass panels stretching forward like a staircase into the void. Each step, a choice. One made of tempered glass, strong enough to hold a person's weight. The other, ordinary glass, fragile and fatal. One by one, the players must choose left or right, step or fall. There are no hints, no rules beyond risk. and the sound of breaking glass soon fills the chamber with dread. The order of death. The beginning, the players hesitate. No one wants to go first, but time ticks on, and fear is no excuse. Eventually, the first brave soul steps forward, then another, and another. Some guess correctly, dancing one step closer to survival. Others plummet into the void. The bridge becomes a graveyard of glass and screams, each fall echoing through the darkness like a drumbeat of doom. Ji-hun and Sang-woo stay toward the back, their eyes scanning every move, every pattern. Se-byok follows closely. Every step taken is a borrowed breath. They are learning again. Even now, even here, every game is a lesson, and not all lessons are fair. A game of faces. Behind the golden masks, the VIPs begin placing bets. Laughing, clinking glasses, debating who will fall next. Their cruelty is quiet, not loud or explosive, but smirking, indulgent. One of them wanders away, drawn to Jun-ho, and the detective must act quickly, playing along just long enough to escape. He slips away, through narrow halls and shadowed staircases, with a phone in his hand, and hope like a flame that flickers but does not go out. He climbs, upward, away from the masks, toward the truth. The fall of bravery on. The glass bridge, panic spreads. A player, one, who worked with glass for years, steps forward. He taps each panel gently, listening. Hope blooms. For a few steps, he guides the others safely. But just as the path begins to appear, the front man dims the lights, and the glassworker's gift becomes useless. Sang-woo, calm and cold, pushes the man forward. Without a word, without a blink, the glass shatters, and so does the illusion of mercy. The last leap only 3 make it across. Gi-hun, Se-byok, Sang-woo. But the final explosion, designed to erase the bridge behind them, sends glass flying in every direction. It is beautiful, in a terrible way, a rain of glittering knives, and one of them is wounded. End of episode 7. Veeps. This was the episode where the Watchers became known, where cruelty dressed itself in gold and luxury, and where survival was not about fairness, but about timing, about position, and sometimes about pushing someone else. This is the cost of a game designed for those who never have to play, and now only 3 remain. Squid Game, Episode 8. Front man after the bridge. The dormitory is colder now. 3 beds remain. 3 meals sit untouched. Gi-hun, Sang-woo, and Se-byok, each lost in their own silence. Gi-hun tends to Se-byok. She's been injured, badly. The glass that rained from the sky has left her weakened, pale. He pleads for help, calling out toward the ever-watchful guards, but no one comes. The game, he does not care. Shadows and steel as the night deepens. Tension coils in the corners of the room. Gi-hun stays beside Se-byok, his hands shaking, his heart burning with questions he cannot answer. He makes her a promise that if they get out, he will find her brother. He will help, and for a moment, Se-byok allows herself to hope. But across the room, Sang-woo watches. His eyes are heavy, his hands restless. He knows what's coming. He knows only one can survive. Later, when Gi-hun, is distracted, trying to summon help one last time. Sang-woo crosses the room, quietly, swiftly, and when Gi-hun returns, Se-byuk is no longer breathing. Gi-hun falls apart. The betrayal cuts deeper than any blade, and now only two remain. The island unmasked elsewhere, on the island's far edges, Junho continues his escape. He's made it to a high cliff. Waves crash below like thunder in a forgotten dream. He sends the evidence, photos, names, the truth, the whole truth, but he is not alone. The front man finds him, a man of shadows, wearing the darkest mask of all. They speak, quietly, like two ghosts, and then the mask comes off. It's his brother. Jun-ho doesn't want to believe it, but the eyes looking back at him are real. He pleads for answers, for mercy. But there is no mercy here. A single gunshot, a body falling into the sea, and the truth disappears into the waves. One last meal. Back in the game, Gi-hun and Sang-woo are dressed in black. A final meal is served. Steak, wine, a dinner fit for kings, though neither feels like royalty. They eat in silence, and afterward, the table is cleared, the room emptied. Only a knife remains, a silent invitation. The lights dim, and they are left alone. Old friends, now final enemies. The storm before the Gi-hun is furious. The grief, the betrayal, it rushes through him like fire. He attacks Sang-woo. The fight is brutal, raw, but not loud. Even violence in this place feels ceremonial. Rain begins to fall, outside and in. The arena fills with water, as if the world itself is weeping. Gi-hun gains the upper hand. He holds the blade, poised, to end it all, but he stops. He offers Sang-woo another way, to end the game, to leave together, to walk away. But Sang-woo, he cannot accept that kindness. He uses the blade on himself. His final words are soft. A name, a memory, and then silence. End of episode 8, Frontman. This episode was not about games, not really. It was about endings, about choices made in silence, and about the things that break us when all the noise is gone. Se-byuk's hope, Junho's truth, Sang-woo's shame, Gi-hun's sorrow. They linger now, like the scent of rain on cold stone. Squid Game Episode 9, One Lucky Day, the return to the world. The lights are blinding, the silence, deafening. Gi-hun awakens in the back of a car, still wearing the same uniform, only now, splashed with blood and rain. The car stops. He's pushed out onto the street. A card is placed in his hand. No words spoken, and just like that, he is home. But the world feels different now. Smaller, stranger, quieter. He walks the familiar streets like a ghost, unseen, untouched. He tries to speak, to connect, but the game has left a silence inside him that words cannot reach. A mountain of nothing. At the bank, a man greets him. Gi-hun now has more money than he could ever imagine, more than he could ever need. A mountain of wealth built on the graves of friends and strangers. The banker offers advice, gently, politely, but Gi-hun does not respond. He withdraws only what he must, a small amount, because money cannot buy peace, and it cannot bury pain. He leaves the rest untouched, like a wound he's not ready to dress. Ghosts in the airtime passes, but the air never clears. Gi-hun visits Sang-woo's mother, the woman, who once fed him as her own. He gives her what he can, not the truth, just enough to ease her sorrow. And then he visits Sabiok's brother. He takes the child to safety, to warmth, to a new home. These small acts are all he can offer, fragments of the people he lost. But in the quiet, they feel like prayers. The stranger in the light one evening, nearly a year later, Gi-hun receives a card, a familiar symbol, a time, a place. Curiosity leads him to a building, bright and sterile, bathed in artificial light. Inside, he finds a hospital bed, and on it, the old man from the games, player 01, alive, Il-nam. The game. Within the game, Il-nam explains it softly. He was never just a player. He was the designer, one of the creators of the game itself. But he grew tired, bored of life, of wealth, of the world. He joined the game not for survival, but for entertainment, to remember what it felt like to be alive. Gi-hun listens in stunned silence. The rage boils. The betrayal is absolute, but Il-nam is fading, his body giving out, even as his confession flows like cold wind. Before he dies, he offers one last bet on human kindness. A test, even now. A man lies in the street below. Will someone help him before midnight? Together they watch, and someone does. Just before the hour, Il-nam dies quietly. Not as a villain, not as a friend, but as a mystery Gi-hun may never understand. The red hair sometime later, Gi-hun changes. He dyes his hair. A deep, burning red, not for fashion, but for transformation. He is no longer the man who began this game. He is something else now. He prepares to leave, to start fresh, to finally escape this shadow. But on the way to the airport, he sees someone recruiting another player. The same old trick, the same card, the same cycle. Gi-hun runs to stop it. He confronts the recruiter, but it's too late. Still, he keeps the card, and instead of boarding the plane, he makes a choice. He calls the number. He speaks clearly. He is not a player anymore, not a victim, not just a survivor. He's going back, not to play, but to end it. End of episode 9. One lucky day. This was not an ending made of fireworks, no banners, no victory. It was quiet and heavy and deeply, achingly human. Gi-hun won the game, but lost so much more. He is the proof that even in the darkest games, kindness can survive, but it does not leave us unchanged. The final step was not survival, it was purpose. And somewhere, in the space between sorrow and healing, he chose to carry the story forward. Squid Game. Reflection. Themes. Emotions. And the human heart. What is the price of survival? Squid Game is not just a tale of competition. It's a mirror held up to our world. And the reflection is painful. It asks quietly, what would you do if the world gave you no choice? When desperation becomes the language of survival and trust is a luxury few can afford, what part of the soul must be sacrificed to simply keep breathing? We watched Gi-hun transform. From a man lost in debt and shame to someone who found his purpose in the heartbreak of others. He did not win because he was the strongest, nor because he was the cleverest. He won because, even in the pit of despair, he remembered how to care. He held on to his humanity when others let go. And that is a rare kind of courage, the faces of the game. Each player had a story. Ali, full of hope and loyalty, believing in fairness, even when fairness had long vanished. Sabyok, carrying her brother's dreams in a world that refused to make space for people like her. Sang-woo, brilliant but crumbling, torn between ambition and shame, making choices that left scars no money could hide. And Gi-hun, always broken, always trying. They were not heroes, not villains, just people. Caught in a game that looked like play but felt like war. The game is real. And perhaps that's why it lingers in us. Because while the players wore numbered tracksuits and played childhood games for their lives, the world outside felt eerily similar. Competition, debt, exhaustion. A society where kindness is rare and rest is earned through suffering. Squid Game does not create a dystopia. It holds a candle to the one we already live in, but that candle, flickering though it may be, also lights a path forward. Light in the darkness. The most powerful moments in Squid Game were not the games themselves. They were the pauses, the small, tender acts. Ali handing over his trust. Gi-hun sharing food. Sabyok opening up, if only for a moment. Even Junho, risking everything to uncover the truth. These were whispers in the noise, and they mattered because they reminded us that even when the system feels impossible to change, humanity can still flicker. A warm hand, a kind word, a sacrifice. Why stories like this? Matter at its core, Squid Game is not about violence, or suspense, or even survival. It's about the haunting fragility of being human. It is about the ways we are pushed, pressed, cornered, and how even then, some choose kindness, some choose hope, and some choose to remember. Gi-hun's story doesn't end with a win. It ends with a choice to fight for something better. And in that choice, he becomes not just a survivor, but a symbol. Final thought. So as you drift tonight, let this story settle into your heart like a stone dropped in still water. Let the questions linger. Let the faces return in dreams. And ask yourself, what would you choose? In a world that demands so much, would you hold on to your humanity? Would you be the one who remembers the names, the stories, the warmth? Because maybe, just maybe, the real game is how we treat each other when no one is watching. Sleep well, dear listener. You've come a long way. And the story, though heavy, has now been gently laid to rest. A soft re-entry into the world of Squid Game. In the quiet hush that follows chaos, a single man walks through the cold, colorless world he once thought he knew. His name is Seong Gi-hun. We last saw him alone, changed, hollowed, but not broken, standing on the edge of freedom with blood-stained memories trailing behind him. He had survived the unspeakable, a brutal contest where lives were wagered for amusement, where childhood games became instruments of death, and where human desperation was twisted into entertainment for the unseen wealthy. He won, but victory never felt like peace. Season 1 ended not with triumph, but with a quiet, burning question. What now? Gi-hun walked away with the prize. Yes, billions in one, but left his soul somewhere in those pastel-colored hallways and blood-soaked playgrounds. He didn't touch the money for months. He let his hair grow long and unruly. He barely spoke, barely lived. The pain wasn't in the games alone. It was in the silence afterward, the knowing, the guilt, and then the spark returned. A small ember of rebellion. When he saw the recruiter once more, slapping another desperate man with promises and envelopes, Gi-hun made a choice. Not to flee, not to spend, not to forget. He would return, but not to play. No. This time, he would infiltrate, investigate, unravel. Season 2 picks up here, not with screams or explosions, but with something quieter, deeper, a simmering defiance in a man who once gave up on life, now clinging to justice with trembling hands. The games are not over. The masks are still worn. The people still vanish. And the nightmare continues. But Gi-hun has changed. He walks into the storm now not as a pawn, but as a man with purpose. What follows is not just survival, it is a reckoning. So let us begin again, slowly, gently. Return now to a world of sugar-coated horror, where the colours are bright, but the stakes are darker than ever. This is Squid Game Season 2. Let's gently begin our journey through Squid Game Season 2, starting with Episode 1, Bread and Lottery. Some things begin again, not with noise, but with silence, and one man walking alone into the storm. The cold wind of winter brushed through the corners of Seoul like a whispered warning. Streets bustled, lives went on, but in the shadows, something lingered, something unseen, but not forgotten. Seong Gi-hun, once just a number in a red-lit nightmare, now moved like a ghost through his own city. His hair was longer now, a deep, angry red, a quiet symbol of change. Not rebellion for show, but transformation from within. No longer a pawn, no longer silent. The pain of the past season still clung to him like smoke. The betrayal, the games, the haunting faces of those who did not survive. Sae-byuk, Ali, Sang-woo. Names that echoed in his mind when he closed his eyes. He had tried to live. Tried to use the blood-stained fortune for good, but the world wouldn't take it. The bank didn't understand his hesitation. The officials only saw a madman. No one knew what he had been through. No one could. But Gi-hun knew one thing. The games were still alive, still recruiting, still devouring. And so he wandered, following whispers, flyers, faint sightings of strange men in suits holding red and blue squares of paper. Weeks passed, a cold December settled in, and then he saw him. The man in the subway station, the same one who had slapped him long ago, offering not money, but humiliation, and a path to something darker. This time, Gi-hun didn't hesitate. He followed. A silent chase. The city seemed different when you walked through it with vengeance in your heart. Every alleyway felt tighter, every train platform lonelier. Gi-hun followed the recruiter through, the shifting crowd, his eyes locked, his breath steady. But just as he reached out, the man vanished into a side corridor. Inside, Gi-hun found something unexpected. Not a confrontation, not an ambush, but an invitation. A red envelope, folded clean, heavy with promise, and a time, and a place. The bread shop. The address led him to a quiet neighborhood, residential, almost forgettable. A small bakery sat tucked between shuttered storefronts. Warm light glowed through the fogged windows, and the scent of freshly baked bread drifted into the street, like a memory of childhood. Inside, it felt wrong. The walls were lined with loaves, yes, but behind the counter stood a man not dressed as a baker, but in that same formal suit. No apron, no smile. "Are you hungry?" the man asked softly. Gi-hun did not answer. Instead, he stared at the plate of bread being slid toward him, and the small, innocuous object beside it, a scratched lottery ticket. A game of luck. The man explained. This was just a test, a warm-up, a harmless game. Scratch the ticket, win or lose, bread or consequence. Gi-hun hesitated. His instincts screamed, but his purpose anchored him. He scratched. Numbers appeared slowly, one by one, and then a match. He had won, or so the man said, smiling with eyes that never quite met his. Suddenly the room changed. 2 masked men appeared from a back door, not red suits this time, darker, quieter. They said nothing. They simply gestured for Gi-hun to follow, and he did. The vehicle was familiar, too familiar. A dull grey transport van with tinted windows and that sterile humming silence. But Gi-hun didn't resist. He knew where this road led. He had once been unconscious for this part, lulled to sleep by gas in the vents. This time, he stayed awake. He watched the city disappear behind him, tall buildings giving way to distant fields and quiet forest roads. There was no turning back now. Return. To the game, the facility had changed, or maybe it hadn't, and it was just Gi-hun who now saw it differently. The same clean lines, the same pastel walls, the same sense of wrongness wrapped in childlike wonder. He wasn't greeted. He wasn't welcomed. He was processed, fingerprinted, measured, watched. The mask he was given was not a circle, triangle, or square. It was blank, no identity, no rank, just a witness. The new players, from a high vantage point, he watched them arrive. Dozens of them, men and women, young and old, each carried by their own storm of desperation. Some cried, some clenched fists, others just looked, empty. Gi-hun saw himself in them, the way he had once stumbled through those doors, dazed and unaware. But this time, he wasn't one of them. He was something else, and yet he felt the dread creeping in, because here, in this place, even purpose can be twisted, even justice can bleed. The first whisper. That night, as lights dimmed and the facility fell into eerie silence, a voice came through Gi-hun's room, a soft, mechanical voice. "Welcome back, player 456. He froze. He had never told them he was. Coming end of episode 1. The games have resumed, but so has the fight against them. And as Seong Gi-hun re-enters the arena, this time with eyes wide open, one must wonder, can a man survive the game when he no longer wants to play? Or worse, when he wants to break the rules? Episode 2, Halloween Party. Sometimes the most terrifying masks are the ones worn with a smile. The world outside was still asleep, but inside the walls of the game, time seemed to move differently. Not faster, not slower, just heavier. Seong Gi-hun sat alone in a grey room without clocks, without windows, without warmth. It was neither prison nor shelter. It was a waiting room for something far stranger. His mind spun with questions, but the silence gave nothing back, until a single envelope arrived. No knock, no footsteps, just the soft sound of paper sliding across the floor. Inside was a folded black card and a date. October 31st. The invitation. The message was cryptic. Just a time, a location, a phrase written in silver ink across the center. One night only. No tricks, only truth. No name, no symbol, no sender. Gi-hun knew what it meant. It wasn't a party, not really. Not in the way the world understood it. It was a gathering of shadows, a theater for the powerful, a mask behind the mask. He studied the location, an abandoned mansion on the city's edge. Empty for years, rumored to be haunted. Fitting somehow, he would go because he had to. Arrival. The night air was sharp as he stepped out of the van. Dark trees swayed like tall, silent witnesses. The mansion loomed ahead, its windows dark, its stone exterior blanketed in ivy and thyme. At the gates, two figures in silver masks nodded without a word. One of them held out a hand. A bowl of masks sat between them. Gi-hun reached in and pulled out a fox. Not red, not gold, but a soft, bone-white porcelain with eyes that sloped into silence. He placed it over his face, and the world changed. Inside the mansion, the ballroom was lit with hundreds of candles. Their flames flickered like secrets whispered from wall to wall. Music played, not loud, not cheerful, just a drifting waltz, delicate and eerie, echoing off velvet drapes and marble floors. Masked figures moved through the room, each adorned in opulent costumes: foxes, owls, serpents, lions. There were no introductions, only glances and silence. Gi-hun recognized the mood before he recognized the faces. He had been among the players before. Now he was among the watchers. The air was thick with wealth, with menace, with something else too. Boredom, perhaps. The kind of boredom only monsters could afford. The familiar face. Through the sea of masks, Gi-hun caught a glimpse. A golden owl standing still at the far end of the hall. He felt a chill before he understood why. There was something in the stance. The way the man's hand rested near his chest. A small detail, but unmistakable. It was him. The front man. His brother. Or what was left of him. Gi-hun moved closer. Slowly, carefully. But before he could speak, a hand touched his shoulder. A deer mask. Feminine, familiar. The woman leaned in and whispered, "Not here. Upstairs." The game. Within the game, the upper floors of the mansion were quieter, but not empty. Rooms were filled with strange displays, paintings that moved subtly when you looked too long, mirrors that reflected different masks than your own, a performance or a test. Gi-hun followed the deer-masked woman into a library. She removed her mask slowly. Her face was unfamiliar, but her eyes, they were tired. Like his. She introduced herself only as Yuri. She was once a contestant. Now, she played a different role. "I'm not on their side," she said. "But I'm not free either." She told him the party was not just celebration, it was selection. New players, new games, new investors. Tonight, they would choose their next victims, unless someone stopped them, a pivotal choice. Yuri handed him a key. Room 13. In 10 minutes they'll vote. But one of them has doubts. You can sway him, or at least shake him. Gi-hun stared at the key in his hand. This was the moment to act, to confront, to begin something dangerous. He nodded, said nothing, then slipped back into the crowd. Room 13. The room was smaller than expected. Just a table, 6 chairs, 6 figures, all masked. They spoke in low tones, as if performing a ritual they no longer believed in. As Gi-hun stepped in, the air shifted. The man at the end, the golden owl, turned slowly. Everyone grew still. "You shouldn't be here," the owl said. "I know," Gi-hun answered softly. "But neither should this place exist." And in that instant, something broke. A silence cracked wide open. The others didn't move, but one of them, the raven mask, tapped a single finger on the table, a signal, a crack in the foundation. After the party, Gi-hun didn't wait for a formal ending. He left as the candles began to burn lower, as whispers curled behind him like smoke. He didn't know if he had changed anything, but he had spoken, he had returned, and he had been seen. Back at the gates, he removed the mask and looked up at the moon. Round, pale, watching. The game was still going, but now, so was he. Episode 3, 01. Before the game begins again, the past comes knocking. It began with a door, a plain, cold door in a hallway too long to measure. Gi-hun stood before it, hand hovering just inches from the handle. The metal was cold, the silence beyond it, colder. He hadn't slept. Not really. Sleep didn't come easily anymore. Not when every shadow might lead back to a game. Not when every face might be wearing a mask. And yet here he was, in the very place he swore he'd never return to. The game facility, changed, but somehow unchanged. Returned to the beginning. The rooms were cleaner now, brighter lights, fresher paint, as if trying to forget the blood once spilled in their corners. But Gi-hun could feel it, the echoes, the weight of past screams, embedded in the walls. This wasn't a new beginning, it was a continuation, a cruel, quiet sequel. And this time, he wasn't just a player, not yet a controller either. He was somewhere in between. New faces. The players had arrived earlier that day, each chosen, each desperate in a different way. They wore green tracksuits again, that same eerie shade of faded jade, a colour caught between comfort and sickness. There was a quietness among them. Not fear, not yet, more like uncertainty. The moment before the plunge, Gi-hun watched from behind a tinted glass panel. He was allowed to observe, for now, an old player turned reluctant insider. He studied the room, faces, postures, hands, and then he saw it, a number. Woe 1, a haunting number. The number hung like a ghost, white digits stitched onto a green chest. He stared. Could it be? No, it couldn't. The old man was gone, dead. He had seen it, hadn't he? But the player wearing 001 wasn't old. She was young, perhaps early 20s, and yet there was something familiar in her eyes, a flicker of mischief, a calm that didn't belong here. The others shifted nervously, but she just stood still, watching, waiting, like someone who had been here before. First assembly. The loudspeaker crackled. A robotic voice, unchanged since the first games, filled the room with instructions. Please proceed to the main hall for orientation. The players filed out, confused but compliant. Gi-hun followed behind, hidden among the staff. His badge didn't match the others. His face wasn't covered, but nobody questioned him. Not yet. Inside the main hall, rows of beds stretched to the ceiling. Again, this time they were spaced farther apart. More cameras, more structure. But the feeling, that tension of anticipation, was the same. He felt it in his spine. The new rules. A woman in a red suit stepped forward. Her mask was different, painted with silver vines across its surface. "Welcome," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You have been chosen, not by chance, but by design." Her tone never rose, not even when she listed the consequences. The rules were simple. 6 games, no outside contact. Elimination is final. But one rule had changed. This time, the players had been warned from the start that the games would be lethal, and yet they had come. That said, everything Gi-hun needed to know. 1. Again later that night, as players settled uneasily into their assigned bunks, Gi-hun walked the outer halls. He passed by the camera feeds, paused on the screen showing bed 001. The girl sat upright, unmoving, her eyes tracing the ceiling slowly. A guard approached Gi-hun from behind. "You're not supposed to linger." "I need her file," Gi-hun said quietly. The guard hesitated, but nodded. Within an hour, the file appeared in Gi-hun's quarters. Name: Han So-yeon, age 23. Debt: 2.4 billion won. Previous profession: care worker. Mental evaluation: composed. Unusual emotional response to stress: high cognitive function. And then, at the bottom of the page, self-submitted. She volunteered, just like Il-nam had. The past in the present Gi-hun sat at his desk long after lights out, reading the file again and again. Something didn't line up. She hadn't come for money. She hadn't come for survival. She had come for the game. But why? And why take that number? He closed the file slowly, then stood, walked to the mirror across the room, and stared at himself. Years ago, he had been number 456, the last one. Now he was not numbered, not placed, not named, just a ghost in the machine, and maybe he wasn't the only one. First whisper at dawn, the announcement came. Game 1 will begin in 1 hour. Panic, tension, scrambled breathing, but not from So-yeon. She smiled, just a little. Gi-hun watched from the shadows, not as a player, not as a host, as something else entirely. A witness, a remnant, a man caught between his past and a nightmare that refused to end. He didn't know who would live, who would die, or if he could stop any of it. But he knew this much. The games had returned, and they were watching him too. Episode 4, 6 Legs. When trust must run on shared rhythm, even a heartbeat can betray. The siren came at dawn, low and humming, like the sound of something ancient awakening beneath the floor. The players rose, slowly, some still groggy, from sleep, if they slept at all. Others already wide-eyed, nerves taut like stretched wire. It was time for the next game. Gi-hun watched from the upper deck, his eyes flickering across each face below. He still didn't know why he was here. Not really, not fully, but something about the presence of 001, the girl with quiet eyes and a knowing smile, it unsettled him. She hadn't flinched during the first game. She didn't flinch now. As the guards began directing players into a new corridor, she was already standing, already ready. The arena, the hallway spilled out into a vast, low-ceilinged chamber. No lights above, just soft illumination glowing from beneath the floor, like cold embers. The floor was a grid of wide metal panels, numbered and painted in odd patterns. Circles, lines, symbols no one recognized. On one wall, a message had, being projected in pale, flickering white. 6 legs, you will run together, or not at all. Murmurs passed through the crowd like wind through dry grass, and then came the voice. The same calm, genderless voice from every announcement. For this game, players will form teams of 3. You must link together using the rope provided. Once tethered, the 3 of you will share one movement, one balance, one pace. Fall, stumble, disagree, and you may not survive. Reach the other side of the chamber in under 5 minutes, or be eliminated. A soft mechanical clunk. Boxes slid open along the wall, each holding thick cords with leather straps. The game had begun. The pairings panic crept in like a slow fog. People looked to each other, eyes darting, calculations behind every glance. Trust wasn't something they'd earned here. It was something they had to pretend. Some groups formed instantly. Previous bunkmates, shared meals, nervous pacts whispered in the night. Others hesitated. Too long. And then the guards stepped in, assigning teams for those left. Behind. That's how it always worked. Gi-hun knew. Choice was only offered to see who would betray whom first. 1. The girl named So-yeon found herself paired with 2 others, a tall, quiet man with trembling fingers. A woman who hadn't spoken since they'd arrived. So-yeon didn't flinch. She just reached for the rope. Gi-hun's observation. From behind the tinted screen above, Gi-hun watched the players tie their legs together, 3 at a time, 6 legs, 1 life. It reminded him of childhood races, those awkward 3-legged games at school picnics. But this wasn't a game. This was punishment wrapped in play. He watched as some pairs laughed nervously. Others barked orders. Already, alliances were starting to fray before the race had even begun. He watched So-yeon closely. Her team didn't speak, didn't strategize. They just moved into formation, quietly, deliberately. It was unsettling. The race. Begins. A loud buzzer echoed through the chamber. The floor panels began to glow, red, blue, green, shifting, flickering like lights underwater. Begin. They started to move. Dozens of trios, bound at the legs, stumbling into forward motion. At first, it was chaos, limbs tangled. People fell. Yells, groans, curses. Then, rhythm. Some groups found it. Step, step, step. Others did not. One team tripped on the very first panel. The panel lit red. Seconds later, a hiss. Then silence. Gone. The rest kept moving. Gi-hun winced. He'd seen death before, but something about the rhythm of it, the quietness after someone vanished. It was worse. So-yeon's calm her team didn't falter once, not even a stutter. It was like they had practiced this, or like she had done it before. Step, step, pause, turn. Every glowing tile was measured, every shift in colour anticipated. Gi-hun leaned closer to the glass. Who are you? He thought. How do you already know the way? Cracks in the game, not all was going smoothly. One group began to argue mid-run. Go left! No, wait, not yet! Their feet tangled. One fell. The tile beneath them blinked red. A split-second scream. Then just 2 players left, and a dangling rope where the third had stood. They kept moving. Because what else could they do? Trust is a lie. Another trio neared the end. Just 4 tiles to go. The middleman, strong, confident, in control, suddenly stopped, pulled the rope taut. The 2 others stumbled. Why? One gasped, but he didn't answer. Instead, He yanked the knot free, let them fall. The tiles lit red, 2 hisses, 2 gone, and he finished the last steps alone. Some rules, Gi-hun now saw, could be bent, exploited. The guards didn't stop it. The system rewarded those who played dirty, quietly. The finish line So-yeon's group reached the end together, untouched, unshaken. As the last panel blinked green beneath their feet, she let go of the rope without a word. Her 2 teammates looked at her, wary now, even afraid. Not because she had betrayed them, but because she hadn't needed to. There was something more dangerous in someone who could win with you, but didn't need you. Gi-hun felt a chill. He knew what the others were feeling. He had once felt the same way. He was beginning to realize So-yeon wasn't playing to survive. She was playing to see who deserved to. Aftermath. That night, the dorms were quieter than before. 7 teams hadn't made it. The beds were fewer now. The space felt emptier. Gi-hun sat alone in his private observation room, eyes fixed on the screen. On So-yeon. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling again. And then, as if sensing him, she turned her head, looked directly at the camera. No smile. Just recognition. She knew he was watching. She wanted him to. Episode 5. One more game. When survival demands more than strength, it begins to ask for pieces of your soul. The night felt longer. No bells, no announcements. Just the kind of silence that presses down like a second skin, too tight to breathe. In those who had survived the last round, the 6 legs now slept lightly, or not at all. Trust had begun to erode, even among those who walked across the finish line hand in hand. The dormitory felt colder, not in temperature, but in spirit. The bunk beds no longer carried whispered conversations or small laughter, only the sound of breath, shallow and watchful. Gi-hun sat alone in his private viewing room, surrounded by the glow of dozens of screens. Each camera captured a moment. A man sharpening a spoon's edge into a blade. A woman silently folding her blanket into perfect squares again and again. A trio staring at one another without speaking, silently calculating if they'd have to kill each other. The game was changing, or maybe, just maybe, it was the players who were. The announcement at sunrise. The now familiar chime echoed through the metallic stillness. Doors slid open. The voice returned, calm, cold, almost kind. Today's event will begin shortly. Please report to the central arena for instructions. This is not a game of strength. This is a game of choice. Prepare accordingly. The players exchanged glances, confusion, suspicion, dread. A game of choice? Someone whispered. That could mean anything, and in this place, it almost always meant something worse. The arena. This chamber was different, smaller, circular, lit from above by a single hanging bulb, like an interrogation room in a forgotten police station. In the center, a table. On it, a small stack of cards, red on one side, blue on the other. There were exactly as many cards as there were players. At the far end of the room stood a single masked figure, tall, silent, still. So-yeon was the first to step forward. Her expression was unreadable. Gi-hun watched her on the screen again, drawn in by her calm. Then the voice returned. Each of you will step forward and select a card. You will not know what the color means until after all selections are made. The color you choose will determine your fate. Choose wisely, or not at all. You have 1 minute. Gasps, murmurs. "Is this a test?" someone asked aloud. "Does it matter?" said another. "It always ends in the same place." But one by one, they stepped forward, drawn by curiosity, or pressure, or the simple truth that not choosing is also a choice. Red, blue, blue, red, red, blue. So-yeon chose last. She paused, finger hovering, and then red. The masked figure stepped forward, nodded. Blue, you are observers. Red, you are participants. The participants will now engage in one more game, and then the twist. But this game does not involve skill or strength. It involves sacrifice. The players tensed. Each participant will be given a choice: to eliminate one player of your choosing, or to remove yourself from the game. Gasps rippled through the room. Wait, what? No way! They wouldn't, but they would, and they had, because this game, like all the others, wasn't about winning. It was about what you were willing to become to survive. Gi-hun's dilemma from above. Gi-hun watched, helpless. These weren't games anymore. They were confessions. Each player stepping forward now held the lives of others in their hands, and with that power came something worse than death. Choice. The first participant, a quiet man who'd barely spoken all week, chose elimination. The screen blinked. His target vanished. He collapsed to his knees. The second chose to remove herself instead. There was no announcement, just the hiss of the floor opening beneath her feet, like a breath being let go. So-yeon was next. She stood still for a long time, so long that the guards almost approached. Then she spoke. "I forfeit." Gasps again. Gi-hun leaned forward, but the voice replied, "Forfeiture accepted, but not forgotten." The lights dimmed. So-yeon didn't flinch as the ground opened. She simply stepped down into the darkness. Aftermath. Only 2 had chosen self-sacrifice. The rest had chosen others. 6 were gone. The room was emptier. The silence was louder. Those left behind looked at one another differently now. Not as teammates, not even as threats, but as survivors of their own choices. And that was the cruelest thing of all. Gi-hun's breaking point back in his chamber. Gi-hun clenched his fists. He'd been watching, always watching. But now, he felt complicit. He remembered his own games, the ones that had torn his soul into jagged edges. He had told himself this time would be different, that he could infiltrate, expose, end it. But now, he wasn't so sure. What if the game didn't need players? What if the game only needed belief, and they all still believed? In winning, in surviving, in something better on the other side. Gi-hun whispered to the empty room. They don't even know it's already inside them. The final shot in. The quiet dorms that night. Someone wept behind a curtain. Someone else sharpened a fork into a dagger. But So-yeon's bed remained untouched, and Gi-hun couldn't stop thinking. She didn't lose. She chose. And that choice might mean more than the game itself. Episode 6, OX. In a place where survival depends on silence, truth still demands to be spoken. The morning begins not with a bell, but with a whisper. A light flickers on, then another. One by one, the dorms come alive, not with noise, but with motion. The slow, steady stirring of players waking to yet another trial. And this one, different from the rest. No one speaks. They've learned that silence is safer, that wondering aloud might be overheard, and that questions are as dangerous as answers in this place. But today, there is a change in the routine. A screen lowers from the ceiling above the dormitory. A black background, two symbols, O and X, white against the darkness, simple, final, and beneath them, the same automated voice, soft, cold, and free of judgment. Today's game will begin now. There are no teams, there are no tools. There is only what you know and what you believe. O means true. X means false. Choose carefully. Each answer carries consequences. The players look around, uncertain, some confused, others already afraid. Because here, even knowledge can be a weapon. The arena, they're led single file down a long, quiet hallway. The floor pulses with pale light, as if the building itself is alive and watching. At the end, the room opens into a massive chamber, circular and pristine. The floor is split in two by a glowing white line. On one side, the symbol O, drawn in luminous paint. On the other, X, identical in design. Above, a dome ceiling stretches high and vast, lined with small cameras that blink like distant stars. The voice returns. You will be shown a series of statements. After each, you must choose true or false. Stand on the side that reflects your answer. Remain still until the results are processed. One wrong answer, and the floor beneath you will vanish. The quiet becomes suffocating. Truth, it seems, has a body count here. Round 1. The first statement appears on the massive screen above. The moon is larger than the earth. A simple one. Basic. Even kind in its way. Most players move toward X, false. A few hesitate, unsure if this is a trick. Ji-hun watches from a shadowed room, heart slow and heavy. He knows these games, knows how they build confidence, only to twist the knife later. The countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A deep hum vibrates through the floor. The players brace, and then nothing, just a calm voice. Correct. They exhale, but that breath comes too early. Round 2. There are 206 bones in the human body. Movement again. Some rush toward O, recalling biology classes long forgotten. Others hesitate, second-guessing themselves. One man, older, trembling, stands still at the center line. He cannot decide. Time runs out. The floor opens silently beneath him. No screen, only the absence of presence. One less player. The rounds continue. Each question grows more difficult, some rooted in science, others in history, and then the personal begins. I betrayed a friend to get here. Whispers ripple. It's no longer about fact, it's about confession. The players exchange glances, reading faces instead of logic. Some move to O, true, others to X, a denial perhaps, or a hope. The floor shudders, 2 more vanish. There are no right answers now, only consequences. So-young's. Stanshi moves slowly, deliberately. Her choices are steady, rarely the same as the crowd. Gi-hun watches her closely. She stands on X when asked, I believe I deserve to live more than the others. She looks up at the ceiling as if someone, somewhere, is watching. The results say, correct. But what does that mean? Correct for the game, or for something deeper? A test of memory. Then a new statement. Player 218 was eliminated in Game 3. This one requires memory, names, faces. The group begins to crack. Some can't remember who Player 218 even was. Was it the quiet girl? The tall man? The one who smiled too much? 2 players go to O, 3 go to X. The voice pauses. Incorrect. The players on X vanish. The mistake wasn't in knowledge, it was in doubt. Gi-hun swallows hard. This game is working exactly as it was designed. The final question. Now only a handful remain. The final question appears. There is no escape. The words linger. Heavy, true, false. Some laugh, bitter, broken laughs. Others weep, but one by one they choose. Some go to O, heads bowed. Others step to X, not out of logic, but hope. Gi-hun leans forward, whispering, to no one. Don't choose what's true, choose what you need. The voice replies, correct answers recorded. Game concluded. Return to dormitory. Some sigh in relief. Some look back, haunted by the floor tiles that no longer hold names. But one thing is clear. They were never answering the game. They were answering themselves. Closing reflections. Later that night, as players lay in their bunks, sleep doesn't come. They replay the questions in their minds. Not just the ones they got right or wrong, but the ones that felt too close, too personal, too painful. Because the cruel brilliance of the OX game wasn't in its simplicity. It was in its mirror. It forced them to look. And in looking, they saw what the games had made of them. Gi-hun, alone, in his chamber, turned off the screens one by one. He sat in the dark and whispered, what if there is no right answer anymore? But the room, as always, had no reply. Episode 9. Friend or foe? At the end of the game, the hardest question is not who wins, but who you trust to lose with. There is a stillness in the dormitory that morning. Not the quiet of sleep, but the silence of knowing. A breath, held by every soul still standing. Only a few remain now. What began with hundreds, eyes wide, hearts wild, clutching hope and fear in equal measure, has narrowed into single digits. The air feels thin here, and heavier than before. Gi-hun wakes not to the sound of the morning chime, but to the soft creak of someone moving quietly nearby. He opens his eyes slowly, blinking through the pale wash of the overhead light to see. So-yeon seated against the wall, knees pulled up to her chest, staring into the cold steel floor. They don't speak. They don't need to. The rules change. The voice returns. But this time, there's something colder in its tone, more clinical, more final. Today's game will decide your fate. There will be no guidance, no instructions, only choice. You may work together or turn against one another. Only one will leave. There's a pause, just long enough for the meaning to settle in. The game begins now. A door opens. Not just one, but several. One for each player. Beyond. Them, nothing but blackness. They rise slowly, reluctantly. No fanfare, no soundtrack. Just the soft sound of shoes on cold floor. And the knowledge that this is the end. The labyrinth. Inside the final chamber, they find a maze. A tangle of shifting walls, dim corridors, mirrored corners. But the true challenge isn't navigation. It's what lies between the turns. Scattered throughout the maze are small rooms, each one presenting a moral challenge, a trap, a temptation, and in each one, a chance to choose, save someone, or save yourself. The first trap, Gi-hun enters a room and finds a lever. Next to it, a screen. On it, the face of one of the other remaining players, trapped beneath a slowly lowering platform. The lever has two settings. Foe, let it fall. Friend, stop it, but lose your chance to move forward. Gi-hun breathes slowly. This isn't a game anymore. This is a judgment. He pulls friend. The platform halts. The screen goes black. He is pushed back into the maze, but the door forward stays locked. A voice whispers through the chamber. Compassion delays. Survival demands sacrifice. He walks away, heart heavy. So-yun's crossroads in another chamber. So-yun finds two boxes, each marked with a name. One hers, one Gi-hun's. She is told only one can open. Inside one, a clue to the maze's exit. Inside the other, a dart that disables the player for 10 minutes, enough to be overtaken. She hesitates, thinks back to the nights in the dormitory, the quiet meals, the unspoken bond, and then, without a word, she opens her own. Inside, nothing. She smiles and walks on. The maze tightens each test, strips away the illusion of unity. It's no longer about games of strength, or tests of intellect, or puzzles designed to entertain unseen watchers. Now, it is a reckoning, a slow, deliberate peeling back of loyalty, of trust, of what it means to stand beside someone when the cost of doing so is everything. Some falter, some betray. One tries to fake an injury to lure another into vulnerability, and is removed silently, without spectacle. The maze does not forgive dishonesty. The final room Gi-hun finds himself in a room with two chairs. So-yeon is already there. They stare at each other for a long, long time. Between them, a single red button. Above them, the screen flares to life. The final choice. You may press the button together and walk away. No prize, no punishment. Or one may press it alone and leave with everything. Decide. Silence. Time stretches. So-yeon's hand trembles. Gi-hun closes. His eyes. He remembers Sang-woo, the final game in the first season. Blood and rain and grief. He remembers what it cost him to win, and he says, softly, like a lullaby, I won't do it again. He steps back. So-yeon exhales and presses the button together. The lights fade. Aftermath. They wake up in a white room, clean, peaceful, no guards, no cameras, no voices from above, just air and time, and the quiet knowledge that they chose differently. No money, no prize, just a story, one they both survived. Epilogue. Outside, months later, Gi-hun walks through the city. No red hair this time, just the weight of knowing. The quiet fire of purpose. He hasn't given up. The games are still out there, and somewhere, the ones behind the mask are still watching. But now, he isn't alone. So-yeon walks beside him, and in their silence, there is more power than any scream. Sometimes the bravest choice is not to win, but to walk away without a prize and still feel whole. Reflection, themes, and emotional resonance. When stripped of comfort and consequence, who are we? What do we become? Let's return gently to where it all began. A train station, a red envelope, a choice made in quiet desperation. Gi-hun was not looking for death. He was searching for dignity, for hope, for a second chance in a world that gave none. And so, the game began again. Not with fanfare, but with a whisper. A whisper that echoes through every corner of this season. Let's walk together now, hand in hand with the story, not to analyze, but to understand, to feel, to breathe it in, as a bedtime wind carries it gently through the chambers of our own hearts. The mask of morality, one of the central truths of Squid Game, one it never shouts, but always suggests, is that morality is easy until it costs you something. This season deepens that question. What does it mean to choose good when good means losing everything? From the early moments of bread and lottery, when Gi-hun chases justice and finds only shadows, to the moral trial of OX, where truth and trust become the very currency of survival. This season reminds us that integrity, when tested under pressure, often bends. And yet, some characters don't bend, some step back, some lift others, some press the button together, even knowing they'll leave with nothing but one another. And that, in itself, is a kind of win. Cycles and second chances at the heart of Gi-hun's return is not vengeance, it's redemption. He's not the same man who staggered from the arena in season 1. He's haunted, but not broken. When he learns that the games continue, that the system persists, he cannot rest, because this isn't just about one man surviving, it's about stopping the machine. Throughout season 2, we watch him refuse to become what the games expect. He doesn't hunger for money. He doesn't hunger for power. He hungers for meaning. And that's what makes him dangerous to those who run the game. Connection as resistance. Perhaps the softest thread in this harsh tapestry is the one woven between people. Gi-hun and So-yeon, strangers, then allies. Quiet dinners in a room of steel and concrete, a look exchanged in a hallway, a moment of trust in the darkness. In a world built on betrayal, connection is rebellion. The games demand suspicion. They feed on fear. But the season reminds us, again and again, that empathy is not weakness. It is strength in its most human form. The game within. As every game in season 2, from the eerie trust exercises in 6 legs to the chilling deceptions of friend or foe, mirrors something deeper within us. It's not just about survival. It's about how we make decisions when no one is watching. Do we lie if it gets us ahead? Do we step on someone else to reach safety? Do we play fair, even if fair might mean defeat? These are not questions just for fictional arenas. They are questions for life, for work, for love, for every small choice we make in a world that often feels like it's watching, judging, weighing what we're worth. A candle in the dark, and yet there is hope. Not loud, not triumphant, but quiet, persistent. In Gi-hun's refusal to repeat the past, in So-yeon's decision to open her own box, in 2 people pressing a button not to win, but to walk away with their souls intact, we are reminded there is a light in all of us, even when the walls close in, even when the odds are cruel. It flickers, but it remains. Final thoughts. What does Squid Game Season 2 teach us? It teaches us that darkness isn't always outside. Sometimes it's the system. Sometimes it's within. But so is the light. Season 2 reminds us that humanity is not erased in hardship. It's revealed that the most courageous act is not survival, but compassion in the face of it. That walking away, choosing to lose the game, might just be the greatest win of all. And that in a world where power watches from behind masks, real strength is found in unmasked kindness. So, as we close this chapter, let us breathe out slowly. Let the echoes of the games dissolve into the still night. Let the story settle like snow, and ask ourselves gently, what would we do if the game were real? Would we choose self or others? Would we betray or believe? And perhaps most of all, would we press the button together? Thank you for walking through this season with me, step by step, dream by dream. Sleep well, dear listener. The game is over. For now. And now, dear listener, we've come to the end. 2 seasons. 2 chapters of a story that feels larger than life, yet somehow carved from the quiet fears and quiet hopes we all carry. We began with a man, lost, tired, and drowning in the noise of a world that didn't care. Gi-hun, just another soul in the current. And then came the red envelope, the invitation, the choice, a game, not of sport, but of survival, not of strategy, but of the soul. Season 1 showed us the beginning of the storm, a brutal stage where childhood games turned deadly, and where humanity was tested in its rawest form. We met players, each with their own wounds, each fighting for a second chance, each holding on to something invisible: love, debt, dignity, memory. And when it was over, when only one remained, the question lingered in the silence: was winning really winning? If it cost you everything, then came season 2. Quieter, darker, deeper. A return not to escape, but to confront. To tear down the system from within. To reclaim the light that had been dimmed. Gi-hun was no longer playing to survive. He was playing to save. And through each new game, each choice, each fragile alliance and painful betrayal, we were reminded: the rules may change, the faces may hide, but the heart, the human heart, is always the final arena. Together, both seasons wove a tapestry of tension and tenderness, of cruelty and compassion, of what we are and what we could become. So as the lights dim and the mask slips off and the arena fades into dream, we ask, what would we risk for dignity? Who would we become if no one was watching? And is it ever too late to choose kindness instead? Thank you for being here, for listening with your heart, for walking softly through the darkness, for letting the story wrap around you like a blanket at midnight. Before you drift off, if this journey moved you, if these quiet retellings brought you peace or reflection or wonder, I gently invite you to stay a while. Subscribe, leave a review, or simply share this story with someone who dreams like you do. There are more tales ahead, more voices, more truths wrapped in the lullaby of fiction. But for now, let go of the weight. Let the games dissolve into mist, and let sleep carry you to gentler places. Good night, dear friend, and sweet dreams, always.